Hi everyone, welcome back to Plum Mashable. So today I'm going to be making a Memorydex card using my Planner's Anonymous So Crafty kit. So let's go ahead and get to it. Alright, so originally I was going to make a card with So Crafty because I thought that would work better, but I realised I've been making a lot of cards lately. So I'm going to make a Memorydex instead. Similar thing, but it'll stay with me. There was the other reason that I kind of decided a Memorydex was because I don't know who I'd send a crafty card to other than all my crafty friends, and they're getting different kinds of cards at the moment. So anyway, so I started off, or decided that I want to use these two bits of paper. So I want to use the pink, well I'm going to call it, yeah we'll stick with pink, but I think it's kind of more orange. And I want to use the acetate because I don't tend to use the acetate for anything other than overlays, which can be a bit boring I think. So I sort of came up with a way that this could work. So if you sort of imagine the card here, I'm just going to grab in an old one just to kind of give you the idea for the shape. So I'm going to have it look like this, but the acetate will stick up at the top, and I'm going to stitch. They'll be stuck down with glue, but I'll stitch in some accents so it looks kind of cool. So I was going over my trimmer. I'm going to cut this sort of bottom bit to be sort of 3/4 of the height of this one. So this is 11. So I'm going to make it be 12. So I'm going to cut the cardboard to 10-ish high and then 13 wide. So I'm just using the guide marks on my trimmer rather than measuring it out, because that's what I do. That's what I do. If I get it wrong, I'm not off by much. So that's sort of the size of our card. I'm just checking that that's sort of about what it was. Yeah, I'm a little bit smaller, but that's alright. And then we'll grab the acetate in, and I'm a bit more careful with the acetate because I want to cut that to the right width. Right. So I'm just looking for my whiteboard marker. That's not a whiteboard marker. I have far too many markers. There we go, whiteboard pen. I'm just gonna mark that about where the acetate is. Now I've just done that to the size of the card. We don't need that much, so I just need to cut the width first. Either way here I'm going to have to waste something, so I'm just sort of trying to waste as little as I possibly can. So that would give me the full height, which I don't need. So I'm just going to cut about sort of 6 centimeters. And that'll give me sort of the height to pop up behind here, and then I'll just trim off the excess with the scissors so that we can make sure that this works. So work out where I want that to sit. It's about there. Then I can go ahead and stick this down. Now for acetate, most of the time I'll use something really, really thick. Because we're going to stitch it though, like a glue that's really thick, so I'd use sort of something a little bit stronger than my glue dots, but because I'm going to stitch this anyway, I feel like I don't need it, and I can just kind of go with this. I'm just trying to make it straight. Okay. And then I'll just trim off the excess. I'm going to give this a curve eventually, I'm just not there yet. So then I'm going to grab, this is where it becomes tricky for me, because dotting, stitching, because I will never stitch straight into it. I need to do some kind of pilot holes, because otherwise I'll be pushing through plastic and paper, and it's just really hard. But I have real issues doing the little stitchy bits because I'm always scared I'm going to mess them up and they won't be straight. So I've just grabbed my pokey tool and my ruler. I'm just going to try try and do, because this is 13, so I don't want it, so it needs to be every ½ centimetre. So I'm just going to poke it through at every half, try and keep this as even as I can. I'm through there. I haven't necessarily gone all the way through. I have a feeling on some of these I've kind of gone a quarter of the way through, but I think it'll work. So I'm going to use this yellow string. I think it'll be too thick, so I'm going to try pulling it apart. So this is it's got 4 little strands in it. So I'm going to pull it apart and just have 2, and that way it's not going to be quite as thick. Alright, so apparently I needed another set of hands. Thank you, Ryan. So I'm going to do just a normal cross stitch through this. This is a really big headed needle, just so I can get my yarn through it okay. I'm going to start on the back, so that way I can stick it down. Go through there. I'm just going to pull that to sort of a point and just stick it down with a little bit of washi tape. It may still come up, it wouldn't surprise me if it did, especially considering it's being stuck to acetate, but that's okay, we'll sort that out afterwards. As long as I've got something to sort of taut it against, it should be okay. Going to cross the bottom to come back up, so that way you won't see the stitch on top of the acetate. Oh no, you're still going to have to see it, aren't you? Because I've got to do it at the other one. That's alright. So that's sort of what the stitches all look like. And where I can, I might actually be able to come down, because this is just a decorative stitch. It's not actually holding anything together. So I'll come down on the back so you can kind of see the acetate doesn't look quite so messed up. So I'm not quite finished yet, but I've realised that I haven't quite cut enough. I've done one too many holes. So all I'm going to do is just use my trimmer and just trim off right where that last hole is. So it'll be even skinnier than I thought it would be, but that's alright. But it's still ½ centimetre away, but it'll look even, because otherwise it would have looked really stupid. Count them out. Make sure you do 14 holes. Whoops. Not necessarily 14, but you guys get what I meant. It is really hard to get through the plastic. Sort of find I've got to put it down to get the hole, get the needle back through the hole, but once it's through, it's not too bad. And then once we're done, I'm just going to cut off the excess string, which didn't want to come off, and just tape that down with a bit more washi tape, just so it doesn't move. I might actually grab some glue, just a dab of it, just of wet glue. Just put a little bit just on the bottom here. And then tape over the top, but that, as it dries, will hold that down just a little bit better. Might do that on the other side as well, just so that we've got the same on each side. Alright, so now we've got that bit done. I do want to put the little curve on this as well, like the other one had. Now it's a die that I've got, so it would be really easy just to grab that out, but I think I'll just trace around it. So I'm just grabbing my whiteboard marker again, just lining that up roughly where I want it, and then I'm just tracing around the shape at the top. And then I can just cut that with my scissors. So because it's whiteboard, it'll come off. So if you don't hit the line, or you go on the top of the line instead of the bottom, that's okay. All you need to do is grab just a cloth or a tissue and wipe it and it'll come off. They can't even tell that it was there. Alright, so then I want to use the stamps. I've got one more thing that I know I want to do, and then I'm kind of a bit lost. But I want to put the stitch stamp around the outside so it kind of looks like that stitched as well. You could stitch the whole thing, but I think that would take too long and I don't really want to. So I've got the stitch, and I'm just going to put it straight down the edge on these sides, and then I'm not sure yet if I want to put it on the bottom because we've got the notches coming out of there anyway. It might look weird on the bottom. So I'm not worried if this isn't 100% straight, just want it to be good stitching lines. And then what I think I'll do, I'll get a slightly lighter ink colour. I want to stamp on a bunch of these buttons, these little cute buttons that are in the stamp set. Just look like, to me, they're a perfect background. So I want to use those. I just don't want them to be quite as bold as those stitching lines are. So I'll just grab my swatches for my Distress Oxides. And I'm just trying to find the right colour. Can you get me fired brick, please? It's a red. Before I stamp on here, I will do a tester on this little bit here. I want to make sure it's A, dark enough, but B, doesn't look silly. You know, that's fine. So it's just a little bit darker, but not a lot darker. So it will give me that nice contrast. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp this in a bit of a random pattern. I'm not trying to be too particular, but just making sure I don't have them too close together or too far away. I can go off the page if I want to. I do wish I had done that before I did the stitching, but oh well, we've learned. So this is the part where I'm now running a bit blind. I had a really clear idea for this part, and then I was a bit stuck. I kind of knew how I wanted the card itself to look, but I didn't know how I wanted to decorate it. So this will be a little bit less assured. So I'm just doing the holes now so that I've got them in the right spot. So I've got out all of the die cuts. I've got the quote cards. The more I look at the quote cards, the more I think I don't want to use them, but it's a bit big. I really do like the buttons. I think the button would look really cute somewhere here, but not quite sure. Alright, I'm going to add a bit of orange here. I'm going to tear this because I want it to look a bit rough. Tear this so I get the white. But then I'm going to add in a bit of that red that we put with the buttons so that it kind of looks a bit less white. Actually, I kind of like the white now. So we'll have the crafting makes everything better. I do think I'll put some stitching lines down the side. I do want to keep, I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. It just looks a little too wide to me. I'm just going to trim off a little bit on the edges, but I still want them to be straight. So we'll use the trimmer, just cutting a little bit off the edges. Towards using the smaller die cuts on this one. I think that big flower looks really cool up in the corner, and because I've made the card a bit thinner, I can go out a little bit and be sort of still within my limits of what my box is. So I kind of like that part of it. I'm a little bit tempted to chuck on some washi just at the bottom. It just looks a bit empty at the bottom to me, and that way I can bring some of those flowers in. Just put that down there, trim trim off the excess. Then we'll just have to do that punch again. Now there's a bit more floral to it. Alright, so I'm going to stick the crafting makes everything better in the top corner, and then balance it with the flower in the bottom corner, and just stick the button. Might actually sew the button on. Or sort of an idea I had with the ones in the back, that maybe we could stitch on the little button. I'm going to put that in sort of about there, because I'm really happy with where that's sitting, so we'll put the glue tape on it. Just looking at the other stamps and making sure there's not something else I want to use on here, and there isn't, because I think I've already gone down the die cut route, so I think putting a stamp of a flower would look silly, so I don't want to do that. I might put the flower up a little bit, just on some foam tape. So I'll just grab a chunk of foam tape and just stick this up. And then I'm going to put the button there and have it, but I'm going to stitch it on. So I'll still glue it down so that way it doesn't wobble, but I'll do a bit of stitching in it as well, so it sort of looks joined in with everything else. So I'll just grab that mat back and just put my holes in the middle. I just stick a bit of washi tape over the top of that as well, so it didn't go anywhere, but I'm pretty happy with that. So then we'll put the flower in the corner. Now just something's missing, but I don't know what. I'm really tempted to put the girl on the back and put her sort of standing up next to those things. That actually doesn't look too bad. And I don't tend to use the girl, so that's a bonus. Whoops. I lost a die cut underneath my back, but that's alright. Well, that came together a little bit easier. Sometimes you just need to play around with things and put them in the right spots, and then magically it all kind of works. So I'm going to go ahead and put those down as well. I'm not going to put any glue on her head, because that's where it would be on the acetate. So it'll sort of just sit freely there. But that'll be fine. And if I have to cut off her boots, which I probably will, I'll just cut them off, because they're going to be hidden behind the flower anyway. That's better. Now it looks right to me. So there we go. That's my little Memorydex card using the So Crafty kit. I like the acetate thing on the top. I think that's something really different that I haven't done before. I wish I had have paid a little bit more attention to the how many there were and had a couple, maybe two more, so that way it would have looked a bit better. But I really do like that. I think it's come out exactly, not exactly the way I was imagining it, but it's, oh, hold on. Got to get rid of this little bit of foam. But it's sort of what I was imagining. That's better. Now there's no foam sticking out the side. So there we go, that's my So Crafty Memorydex card. Like I said, I was going to do this as a card, but I feel like I've done too many cards recently, and I thought this one would be sort of, then I get to keep it, which is kind of exciting. I like being able to keep them for myself sometimes. I'm a little bit selfish like that. Let me know what you think of this one. Give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and make sure you're following me on all of my socials for any of my other projects. You can also make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss anything future using Planners Anonymous or any other Memorydex cards I make. Hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day, whatever you get up to, and I'll catch you again in my next video. Sending lots of huggles. Bye!